Hello, and thank you for joining me again today. There's a question that I'm sure we've all been asked at some point, usually at school or in a youth group, or at one of those really annoying ice-breaking exercises. And the question is, if you had to save one thing from a burning building, what would it be? And the point of the question is to find out what matters most to us, what things, usually things, we shape our lives around. It's not a bad question in that sense, because it's helpful to reflect on the things that shape who we are and our priorities. Because the things that matter most to us shape the decisions we make and how we live. That's why in our faith Jesus warns people against trying to serve God and money, because they offer very different shapes to our lives when we make them a centre point. If we go back early in the history of our faith, the people of Israel chose to make a covenant or a relationship with God. And some would say that the whole of our Old Testament, as we call it, is the story of how that covenant works or doesn't work. The bit that says, I will be your God and you will be my people. And so often that relationship just becomes a mess because the people end up shaping their lives around other things, around different priorities, idols and self-interest. And that's why the people put in the centre of their lives, as that Old Testament story unfolds, the city of Jerusalem, where the king would be enthroned and God would be at home in his temple, right in the heart of the lives of all the people. And of course it would be eventually that Christians would come to understand that at the very centre of our lives is meant to be Jesus Christ, who takes that place as King and presence of God in temple. And that's partly why in the Anglican tradition we gather around a table or an altar, which is two things at least. Firstly, a literal table on which we share a meal, but also it's a throne, where week by week we put Jesus at the centre of our lives again and again. Jesus would be given many titles by Christians, but one of them would be King, the one enthroned on the right hand of God. And that's particularly made vibrant for us, I think, in the book of Revelation, chapters 4 and 5, where we get an amazing image, almost psychedelic, of the enthroned Christ in heaven. And the invitation to Christians to join in the worship of the enthroned Christ with the angels. So when we worship, which Paul reminds us we do not just in a building or in songs and prayers, but with the shape of our lives, we put Christ back on the throne of our hearts, shaping our lives around his love, so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my all. Some of you will immediately recognise that as a line from a song, but that's not the one I want to share with you today. Rather, I have a song I grew up singing, certainly through my teenage years, that reminds us that this is what worship is about, putting Christ on the throne of our hearts. So I invite you to sing with me, Jesus, we enthrone you.
Proclaim